There really is nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as we understand that mistakes must be lessons, life lessons that we learn from. And I got to tell you, some of the biggest mistakes that I ever made, if not the biggest mistake I ever made, was actually a collection of mistakes when I allowed myself to be entrapped by a narcissist. Not just once, but a couple times. So, yeah, now that I'm nearly 70 years old, I've learned a thing or two, and I'm sharing with you some of these mistakes that I made, life lessons that I made. I call this life's laboratory, but how is it possible that I allowed myself to be entrapped or ensnared by a narcissist? Well, let me share this with you. First of all, and when I say you, I'm kind of talking to myself, like I'm talking in a mirror, but you felt good about that friendship or relationship at the very beginning. That's understandable because it's by design. The narcissist is kind of like, that used car salesman that approaches you on the used car lot, very friendly, very upfront, very warm and kind and considerate, trying to draw you in so he or she can sell you a car. Or maybe like, I don't know, what's another good example? Have you ever gone out to dinner? Have this wonderful person as a waitress or waiter come up and take your order, and you think this is the kindest person in the world. Well, that's called love bombing, and sometimes we're fooled by that. We think the waiter or waitress actually likes us, or the used car salesman really, really likes us. Not so. But the narcissist, yeah, this is somebody who comes across as a friend. There's nothing about the setting, usually like a used car lot or a restaurant, that would even begin to suggest this person is just there to scam us, to rip us off, to take advantage of us. So the first mistake again is you feel good about this relationship, and that again is by design. The narcissist wants you to feel good about it. This is the narcissist love bombing you, drawing you in. Number two is you responded naturally, but not wisely. Now we got to keep in mind that there's something about what we would call gut feelings. Some people say you should follow your gut feelings. Well, the problem with my gut feelings is they change. My gut feels differently after I eat Mexican food than after I eat, I don't know, just meat and potatoes. I love Mexican food, but it has a different effect on me. And what about my emotional gut? That's what they're really talking about, right? Well, same thing applies. There are some things that make my gut feel good, and a narcissist has this knack for making you have this good feeling inside of you. So you're following your gut instincts because you're being misled. So you are naturally following your instincts, but you're not doing it wisely. So I guess what I'm saying is we need to be cognitive, not emotional. When it comes to being ensnared or entrapped or building relationships with anybody for any reason at any time, we got to engage our brains. We must disengage, at least to some degree, our emotional intelligence. Number three is you allow let's put this in past tense because I'm talking to myself. You allowed toxicity rather, to rub off. Narcissists love a toxic environment. Didn't start that way, right? When we first began our friendship or relationship or whatever with a narcissist, it wasn't toxic at all. Well, actually, it was. It was just sugar coated. The narcissist poured so much sweetness on their approach that it just totally covered the stench of what they were really up to. But once we were inside, then we realized, wait a minute, this is not quite as good as we thought it was. But still, fresh in your mind is that love bombing. You still have that first impression, which is always lasting, that this is really my friend here. This is my love interest, or this is my buddy. This is somebody who's got my back, and I got his back, or I got her back. And so what happens is we're playing the narcissist game, not realizing fully how toxic this really is. We notice, it's getting a little more toxic. This person is getting a little bit more out of hand than before, not quite as loving, a little more obnoxious. A little more pushy, a little more demanding, a little more, but never. But it's always gradual. You know, it's always it just comes on you one bit at a time, one tiny step at a time. It's not like, typically, it's not like they throw it all on you at once. I know there are exceptions to that, but still, we began playing the toxic game of the narcissist. And the toxic game is they use us for supply and we supply them. When I say supply, you know from listening to my videos in the past, when we talk about supply, what we mean is the narcissist is supplying or inflating his or her ego at our expense, putting us down so they can put them up. So, okay, we tolerate a little bit of that because we still, our mind is back in that love bombing stage. Number 4 is you were looking for approval and acceptance at the very beginning. So how was it that we got ensnared or entrapped by the narcissist at the very beginning? I mean, how did that happen? Why did the narcissist choose us? I did a whole video on this, by the way. Why did the narcissist choose us and not somebody else? What was it about us that made us so gullible? I mean, there are other people out there, and surely the narcissist is love bombing some other people, and they didn't fall for it. Why did we? Well, the reason is because we were looking for approval and acceptance. By approval and acceptance, it's kind of like we're needing somebody to say, you know, you are acceptable. You are somebody that can belong to my inner circle. You are a special person. And we, for some reason, need that because in the past, apparently in the past, we have been made to feel like we are not special, that we are somehow inferior, that we are not acceptable, that we are not up to standard, that we don't meet the approval of others. And we're looking, there's a deficit. There's an emotional deficit. And again, the emotional thinking rather than the cognitive thinking. And the narcissist comes along and provides a solution to that and pulls us out of that deficit. At least we think so. We don't realize we're really digging in deeper. Number 5 is we were searching for validation. Now, when I was putting my notes together, it occurred to me that there's a scintilla of difference, not very much, but there is a shade of difference between approval, acceptance, and validation. Not quite the same, but very similar. Validation simply means that we don't feel okay, or invalidation means we don't feel okay. You know, we just, even though we may now have approval and we may have acceptance, that inner feeling of really being okay, of being validated, of being a part of it, just kind of missing, you know. I mean, you can join a group, but somehow, even though you've been accepted, you know, they took your application, maybe literally, maybe not literally, but they took you and they accepted you formally and officially, but somehow you don't really feel a part of it. Well, that is validation, where yes, I feel like I'm valid, I'm real, I'm genuine, I'm part of the group, I belong. And the narcissist gives that to us. Or he pretends to. She pretends to give that to us. But what the narcissist is really looking for is to make us feel validated so they can invalidate us. So they ensnare us in the trap, you know, like the mouse trap, thinking they're going to get cheese. That's not the point of the trap at all. So the narcissist, you know, the cheese is validation, but that's not it at all. What does the narcissist want to do? Inevitably, the narcissist wants to invalidate us so he or she can feel more validated themselves. So, in a sense, the narcissist has that same, what would you call it, a yearning or a drive or a desire to be validated, but they go about getting it a different way. And their way of getting validation isn't from others, but it is from putting others down. So, they do get it from others, but they take it. It's not that others approve them. So they put you down, they invalidate you, they ridicule you, they make you feel less than you really are, much less than you really are, not at the beginning, but that's why we were talking about the progression. Slowly it goes until finally you realize you've been sapped dry. You've been sucked dry. There's nothing else the narcissist can take out of you. I mean, they've just totally beat you down, and then comes the final discard. They get rid of you, or a discard at least. And now what are you going to do? Well, typically what the narcissist does, he leaves you wounded by the roadside, leaves you, figuratively speaking, for dead, wounded and bleeding by the wayside. They're done with you just like a used issue paper. No interest in helping you whatsoever. They got what they needed out of you. They're done. You're just trash to be tossed aside. And they go on to their next victim, which they typically already have several in the works at that time. Do you see those two rectangles on the screen? If you want a conversation to continue, all you got to do is click on one of those two rectangles and we'll keep talking together. But if not, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you all next time.